Do you typically come to church like this on a Sunday afternoon? Do you? Who comes here like this on a Sunday afternoon? Nobody does. So why are you here today? Dressed all nicely in nice white dresses and shirt, ties. Why are you here? What's that? First communion, yes. You're here for your first communion. It's a wonderful day for a first communion, and it's very beautiful. Today's going to be a day that you'll remember, I think, for the rest of your life. I think all of us, when we do something for the first time, it's a lasting memory that you don't ever forget. Before we were coming out of the sacristy, before Mass, Father Angelo was asking the servers if they remember their first communion, and they were given some details. Some did, mostly details, and some vague details. I remember my first communion pretty well. The thing I remember most about my first communion was actually Saturday night into Sunday. Two of my brothers got sick in the middle of the night. So the next morning, Mom and Dad probably Mom more so than Dad, was nervous that I would get sick in the middle of First Communion and get sick on a girl's dress. That never happened. Thank God it saved a lot of embarrassment. But next to that, last couple months, Mom and Dad's been trying to clear my junk out of their house. And this last Monday, I came across stuff for my own First Communion, and different things come to my mind of First Communion. But the thing that I remember most about First Communion is my grandmother gave me a rosary on my First Communion. And I still have that rosary, and I thought, well, I'd bring it for show and tell for Mass this afternoon. Father Angelo, do you remember your First Communion?
Yes.
Would you like to share what you remember about yours?
Well, I remember our church was being renovated, so it didn't happen in the spring. The First Communion happened in October of the year. And three of my cousins and I made our First Communion together, so it was pretty cool to have all of us in one place celebrating the sacraments. So I remember the excitement of that day, just the specialness that my family made. I attended several others because I'm one of 8 kids, so it was my turn.
Today is a special day. In our scriptures today, we hear today's the 5th Sunday of Easter, and our scriptures today, we don't hear anything about a typical resurrection story. We don't hear of the women discovering an empty tomb, nor do we hear the disciples walking the way to Emmaus and Jesus appearing there, nor do we hear of Jesus appearing behind locked doors. What we hear today is a gardening image. We hear of the vine and needing to be trimmed, and what's dead needs to be removed. And this image of the vine, I think, describes a lot of our relationship with God. That when we were born, we were planted as a seed. In our baptism, we receive that first gift of life, and we unite ourselves with God. As we journey through life, the vine grows, and there's sometimes parts in that vine that is not living as well as it should. It becomes dangerous to the vine. And so that part of the vine needs to be cut out. Where there's part of the vine that's kind of growing in places where it should not, so we prune that back. In our faith life, we might call that the sacrament of reconciliation or confession. The Lord comes into our lives and we remove ourselves what is dead. We remove what takes life away. Today you come here to celebrate your First Communion, to receive Christ's body and blood, that nourishment into your life. And that, I think, is like watering and fertilizing that seed so it can grow properly. and that it continue so that you can continue to grow in your faith and grow in that relationship with our God. As you receive your first communion today, as you're nourished by the body and blood of Christ, as each one of us is nourished as well for our second time or 100th time or 1,000th or a millionth time, may the nourishment of our God that we receive today nourish us and sustain us for life.